Game 4 here was a bit difficult to me. I considered quite a few things. This remake, you can do something with that, but your only source of plus actions is Necropolis, so you have to keep that in mind when you're building. I thought about some kind of miser thing. Marauder I didn't think would be an issue because there's Bonfire to get rid of the ruins. There's also Remake, there's also Develop, and there's also Mercenary, which is usually a big deal whenever it appears. My opponent opens with an Urchin, so they are going down that road. Eventually, I decided I wanted some kind of menagerie deck with maybe one of each treasure, like one copper, one silver, one gold, and try to go for provinces that way. I know I need more money, and the other source would be Mandarin. Mandarin is also useful because you can top deck things. But before I came to that decision, I considered all sorts of things. Bonfire was an option, Develop maybe, on 3 that is, Silver even, maybe Menagerie, just trying to counter my opponent's mercenary attacks from very early on. Instead, I opt for the Urchin, and then the double Urchin opening, obviously. There's mission on the board, so that's something to just keep track of. You may want to buy one just to attack your opponent or something like that, maybe to remake if you were going that way. Just something to keep in mind. My opponent's Urchin comes out and collides, so they get their mercenary very early, which usually spells trouble for me. Or if you're on the receiving end of that, it's not very good. It's not a very good thing to see. So here on 4, my opponent goes for a silver, although there is some consideration here as to what they should buy. Here my Urchin does not manage to find its friend, so I'm stuck here with 3 and a lonely Urchin, so I decide to buy more friends for it, getting a 3rd Urchin. I don't want any more Urchins though. I think 3 is enough for it to collide. On 3, my opponent here will pick up another Urchin. So the difference in the decks is that my opponent has a mercenary and I don't. And he also has a silver, I believe. On 4, again, thinking about what to buy here, I go for Caravan Guard because I expect it to trigger reasonably often. I expect my opponent to have a Urchin left over and they'll be playing that all the time, so hopefully my Caravan Guard can get some triggers going. My opponent picks up a 2nd silver here. I managed to get the mercenary on this shuffle, so 1 shuffle later, but it's okay, at least it didn't miss on the 3rd shuffle. That would have been just completely horrendous. 3 here, considering between a Caravan Guard, Menagerie, and a silver. I quite like the idea of Caravan Guard. If I can get 4 or 5 of them, it'll be quite good, especially if they trigger off an Urchin play or off a Mercenary play. I opt for the Menagerie at this point, trying to build the Menagerie deck. With my opponent's Mercenary looming, I decide to go for the Menagerie because I expected to provide some defense against that. I expected it this turn, the Mercenary, but it didn't come, and instead my opponent picks up a silver. So I'm fairly certain that is gonna come on this turn. It's probably guaranteed, I think. So I pick up a 2nd Menagerie, hoping to counter the Mercenary as it comes. And I managed to draw a Menagerie, so that's very good. And my opponent plays a Mercenary. And also exchanges an Urchin for a Mercenary here. So Menagerie activates. My opponent gets up to gold on that shuffle, so that's quite good. Feel like they're a bit ahead at this point. My Menagerie kicks off, which is good. I get my 2nd Mercenary with this Urchin here. Caravan Guard comes into play. And with this Mercenary, there's some consideration of trashing just the 2 coppers to make Menagerie more likely to trigger. But I decided to get rid of the hovel and the copper just to see how much money I could get up to. If I could have gotten to 6 here, I would have taken the gold very quickly. That would have been quite nice. 5 here, I do want a Mandarin, but not on, well, not with 3 coppers in play. There's also Bonfire to consider, but I opt for a silver at this point. It's my first silver for the game. Remember I said I wanted a deck with something like one of each treasure, so I need a silver. I get it there. Urchin here activates my menagerie. My opponent buys a mission here, presumably looking for the mercenary to try to attack me, and it didn't seem to work out, so that seems to be a spot of bad luck for my opponent. On the mission turn, however, they're able to buy a bonfire, getting rid of a couple coppers. To me, I didn't want to do that because I really wanted to get as many attacks out of the mercenary as possible. By buying bonfire, it deprives me of one attack of mercenary. So here I'm able to pick up a gold, my first gold here, and the deck is starting to take some shape, although this hand is not so good. My opponent attacks with mercenary, easy discard of 2 coppers here, comes up with 7, picks up a second gold, and menagerie comes in to save the day. This menagerie triggers, caravan guard comes down, and I'm able to trash and attack with the mercenary. I'm not trashing this urchin because I want it around for the remainder of the game. It will be a constant discard attack that my opponent will have to deal with. And here, the last part of the deck, the Mandarin. So here, at this point, I discard 2 cards to the mercenary. All the cards that don't draw, they go away. As an easy enough decision. I get 2 menagerie activations. The urchin comes out, and I get to trash what is probably the second to last time with mercenary here. I'm considering again getting rid of the mercenary here and keeping the coppers around, and I do trash the mercenary. And with 10 and no plus buy except in the ruins pile, I'm going to go for province. So here I'm attacked again. I drop the Mandarin. It's not good on small hand sizes, and I get rid of a silver, keeping the mercenary in case I draw any junk. I can get the final trash off with it. Again, 2 menagerie triggers here, so that's good for me. I'm able to trash out these final 2 coppers from my deck with the mercenary, and I have 8 for a second province, so we're looking very good here. My opponent gets on the board with her province. Gold, gold, silver. Here I don't quite have province, so I'm considering what to do at this point. I wanted to buy duchy here, but I misclicked and put the silver back on top of my deck instead of the mercenary. So what ends up happening is that I'm left with $4 and pick up a menagerie, which isn't bad, and probably turned out to be the better thing in the end here. My opponent picks up a second province, so we're equal on points here. My opponent has a bit more treasure in their deck, whereas I have the menageries to draw through. I put this caravan guard in play, and with Mandarin I'm able to top deck a menagerie for next turn, picking up my 3rd province along the way. My opponent has managed to get an Envoy, and it draws him a lot of money, gets him to the 3rd province here. Here I notice that my opponent has first player, which means I can buy this 4th province. If my opponent gets the province, the scores will be tied, but I would win on turns. So my opponent now decides to play the duchy dancing game. So we'll see how this turns out here. The game begins to get quite attritional from this point. Here I'm trying to see if I trash something with the mercenary. If I can get up to 8 to get the province, I can trash menagerie and necropolis, but I'm only guaranteed $7 at that point. So I play it safe and just take the duchy. My opponent responds with a duchy of their own here. No more menagerie activations at this point. Menagerie is starting to become quite ordinary here. I have to play this menagerie in an attempt to find some more money, and luckily I do. Missing duchy at this point is bad because it allows my opponent to win with that final province. My opponent keeps up the pressure with a 3rd duchy. Here I'm thinking about again some plays that would be possible through trashing with mercenary. I see none and just play the gold with 4 coin. It's a bit of a tough decision. Mission doesn't help. Marauder might help. Another Menagerie isn't that good. I opt for the Envoy as my opponent did. I deny gold here of my opponent's Envoy, and with 2 they will pick up an estate at this point. Not sure about the estate, but there's not much else you can do here. Maybe you could have passed. I'm not sure. So here I'm able to use the Mandarin to top deck a Menagerie and pick up a Duchy. So I'm level again on the Duchy count. My opponent picks up Duchy number 4. Here I have at least another Duchy. Again searching for some play with the Mercenary. Stick the Caravan Guard down and get the 4th Duchy. So this was a gut-wrenching Envoy to see here. I denied the gold and hoped that they had no other treasures in hand. And you know what? So said, so done. However, my opponent buys a Mandarin, so things look very grim. And it forces me to buy a state here, which means that province would still lose for my opponent. So with all that money, they have to go back to estate, and now it's really an estate walk. Whoever misses estate runs the risk of losing the game. Particularly if I miss estate, I run the risk of losing the game. However, I'm able to get an estate there, second estate. My opponent gets a 3rd estate. That Menagerie activates. And here, after a bit of calculation, I realize I have the win. That 1 coin from Caravan Guard that has been coming into play throughout this game saves me, because I can trash Necropolis and Duchy to get the money from the Mercenary and put me at exactly $8. So that is game 4. Thank you for watching. As usual, comments, feedback are welcome.